You may have seen online there were suggestions that from Spanish outlets primarily that Konate is getting closer to a move to Real Madrid, but then there are also some suggestions that Liverpool have offered him a new contract. But all of this talk is very reminiscent of Trent Alexander-Arnold. So do you think with the history of Real Madrid and their history of taking players for free like Mbappe, and although we did end up getting a fee for Trent, Liverpool were sort of forced into selling him really. Do you think that the situation with Konate is looking quite ominous and is very reminiscent of Trent Alexander-Arnold?
I guess it never looks good when the contract's not agreed yet or whatever, and things are dragging on, and kind of an outline contract's been there on the table for a little while. That does make you a little bit nervous. What I would say about this situation is, as far as I understand it, nothing's quite settled yet. And it's so easy to fall into, isn't it, to say, well, he hasn't signed it yet, therefore he's 100% going and his mind's set on that. He may well end up going to Real Madrid, that it's 100% a possibility because they clearly like the player and there's an interest there, and he's going to be available on a free if he doesn't sign a new deal. But I don't think it's quite there yet, as in anything's decided. And I know people want to kind of get in there early to say that they were right about it, but you've just got to kind of wait till there's a genuine resolution on these things. And Liverpool are there, and there had been talks, and I don't think you've got the impression just yet that the player's kind of completely turning his back on it and wants to go on a free, or had any real confirmation of that. Although these days players do just tend to drag that out a little bit anyway because it serves them to do so. So maybe we won't hear much on that front until we get to the end of the season. But at the moment it still seems a little bit up in the air, and there is still chance of a breakthrough there, but it is, the fact it's not been reached yet and we're into that final year always makes you nervous. You can't rule out that they'll get there because, you got to look at the Van Dijk and the Salah situations that dragged on, and everybody said they were gone and then they weren't. So you've got to kind of bear that in mind. But it's not an ideal situation. And I'm pretty sure Liverpool are thinking about it in the terms of, there's a real possibility here that he does eventually go, and they'll be prepared for that outcome as much as they're prepared for him signing on the dotted line as well. So yeah, a little bit of a worrying situation, but not one where you can give any kind of definitive answers on yet. And I guess for Liverpool, they've just got to prepare for every eventuality, really.
I think fans are somewhat more concerned this time around because there were reports, I think it was October 2024, I think I'm right in saying that the contract extension was close to being signed. And then since then, it's just been large periods of radio silence, and then just Spanish reports suggesting that he is close. So there's been a lot of empty space there. But do you think that it's difficult to know exactly why an extension hasn't been signed? Because maybe he does want to go to Real Madrid, or maybe he just wants improved terms. Do you think that it's a different case to Trent Alexander-Arnold, because Trent Alexander-Arnold seemingly wanted to go to Real Madrid at all costs? So is it maybe a bit different with Konate?
Yeah, I think with Trent, it was kind of wanting the experience and to try something different, and a bit of a kind of, real drag for him to do that as well, because it's, he knew what he was leaving behind as well. So a very kind of tough decision for him to make. With Konate, I guess it's kind of, he hasn't got as much of a link to Liverpool and that kind of, hometown club affection that you would have there. But I think, with him, it's an interesting one because it's kind of a, I think it's just kind of seems to be, from what I'm kind of hearing people, a bit of a business decision at the moment. Are Liverpool going to offer him terms that he thinks are acceptable? If not, then he'll look at what else is out there, really, and maybe Real Madrid is one of the clubs that's willing to offer that. So I just think it's kind of a negotiation that is very much based in kind of the financials and how he feels valued by Liverpool, and whether that's enough. And Liverpool have a red line that they won't really cross in terms of what they want to pay him wage wise, and I think that's where kind of the disagreement is, and why this one has dragged on. So there can be a breakthrough. Liverpool can decide eventually that they will cross that line and they will pay over a certain amount than they maybe wanted to, and the player will then feel more valued and will want to stay. But that hasn't happened yet. So like I say, this one feels more, less about kind of the career decision or anything like that, and kind of like there's room for an agreement to be reached there. But whether it will, Liverpool will be kind of ruthless about this one, and if they can't find a deal that works for them, then they will walk away and kind of accept that he will leave on a free. And I think for Konate, he'll have plenty of pretty good options as well if that happens. So yeah, we're still in that position where I think there's an openness on the players' side to stay eventually, not unlike the Trent situation, but it'll have to be on certain terms that suit him, and I don't think we're quite there. And whether we will get there at all is really up in the air. You know, you kind of at the moment lean on the side of no, but we'll see.